Welcome back. Let's look at the publication process now. This is also important to understand the place of the literature search in your writing. Now, when you write a manuscript and submit it to a journal, the editor sends for peer review. And the editor's decision can be one of three. The worst decision that you can receive is reject with no encouragement to resubmit. So what do we have to do? We have to do a rework, work, and then thoroughly revise, and then submit as a fresh paper. Then the second decision, and this is the most common decision, accept with revisions or rejected with encouragement to resubmit. So this is called major revisions decision. So we must thoroughly revise and submit as a revised paper, not as a fresh paper, as in this case. So the best decision that you can receive, which rarely happens, is accept, and then you revise and submit the so-called camera ready paper. So even if you go through this path, finally you will end up here if you get the paper accepted. Alright, this is a funny picture, the peer review process. So you want to get this publication accepted, so look at the obstacles that you have. Okay, so if you think about the typical peer review process in a journal, the editor or the editor-in-chief of that journal assigns a submission to associate editors. So associate editors are experts in subjects and they know about the people who would understand this work. So the associate editor assigns the manuscript to reviewers to be revised, usually 3 reviewers. So the reviewers review the paper and then they would submit their reviews to the associate editor, and there can be some confidential reviews also. Then the associate editor makes a decision, accept, major revision or reject, as we saw before, and communicates a decision to the editor, and the editor communicates a decision back to us. So there are several peer review types also. A single blind review, what that means is reviewers are hidden from the authors, but the reviewers know the names of the authors of the paper. And then secondly, the double blind review. This is an excellent way of reviewing. The top conferences like CVPR has double blind review. Both reviewers and authors remain anonymous. Then open review, reviewers and authors are known to each other. That means we know who would be reviewing our paper, and the reviewers also know who we are, the authors. So, for example, ICLR has open review. Anyone can review in that case. Note, a conflict of interest arises when a reviewer and author have disproportionate amount of respect or disrespect for each other. For example, the graduate student and the former professor. The graduate student had when he was a student. Okay. What is a typical criteria that reviewers use to assess papers? This can be different from field to field. The category, that means is it applicable to our journal? The correctness, are the equations correct, is the idea correct, are the theories correct, and so on. The relevance, so to the readers and the other readers in the journal, whether it's readable, whether it's clearly written, originality, contributions, utility, that means is the paper useful, results and comparison, and references. So you see, the having references, proper references, is a review criteria as well. So let's briefly look at some instructions given to the CVPR reviewers in 2020, just to see how they use the literature to evaluate the goodness of a paper. Alright, so this one is a good review. So you can see in this case the reviewer fully understands the related work. He has full knowledge of the related work, and he says, first of all, this paper was a delight to read. The authors developed an actually novel scheme for representing spherical data from the grounds up. So when you say novel scheme, that means the reviewer understands what the state of the art is, that means existing literature, and based on that the authors have developed it, so the reviewer understands that. So also you can see here, the reviewer says it would be nice if the authors compared the existing time number of parameters of their model versus the closest competitors in the latter two embryo. So you can see is asking the paper's results to be compared with the closest papers. So like we said, we include in results the closest literature and compare the results with them. Okay, if you take a bad review, although bad, this review is a review, so you have to live with that reviewer's decision. So in this case, you can see this reviewer has cited 3 papers and cited and saying, okay, so you did not pay attention to this paper, that paper, and so on. So therefore, it's not a good thing for the authors. So usually there's a chance of the paper getting rejected. So I like to show you some review that we received also. Actually, the paper got rejected, unfortunately. So here I want to show you that these reviewers, so this is the submission to ICML. So it's a difficult conference, and in these kind of conferences, reviewers fully understand your work. Also, they fully understand the existing work that are related to your work. So in this case, reviewers mentioned scroll down. So this one. However, neural expectation maximization, so this is a 2017 paper. We knew about it. We did not properly argue against that paper. So that reviewer cited that paper. Also, I think we received 4 reviews for this paper. And then okay, the IIC paper, we argued about it. We knew about that paper. And also one more reviewer mentioned this. So then the area chairs in the conference, when they see this, both these reviewers referring to this paper, so they rejected our paper. So you see, when you know your related work, you must properly argue against them. So if your results or your work or your ideas do not surpass this existing work, then your papers would get rejected. So on the other hand, what that means is you have to be extremely familiar with the related work, closest work in your area that happened a couple of years last year and a couple of years ago, and so on. All right, so getting back to our slides. So some writing tips. So some of you may already know about these things. So I extract some of these things from this very nice book, a very small book, but an information-packed, succinct and clear book. So I suggest you to read. There are 2 copies in the library. So this book gives advice. Now it gives them by numbers. So choose a suitable design and hold to it. So I'm just trying to entice you to read this book. Make the paragraph the unit of composition. Use active voice, contrary to some instructions given by others. So these are English professors. The book was written about 50 years ago. So advocating the use of active voice. Then put statements in positive form. So we can take some examples. Use definite, specific and concrete language. Omit needless words. So it's very nice to read this and memorize what the authors say in this. So I will rush through them. But here are some instructions on writing the paragraph. So paragraphs are building blocks of papers. So when you write literature search also, you know that starting from the literature, you must arrive at the gap, and then this gap should lead to the solution that you are presenting. So we decided that, so to establish that the gap exists, we have several paragraphs to write on literature. So each paragraph must form the line of argument that walks through your readers from the literature to the research gap. So that's the purpose. So therefore, each paragraph's intention must be written at the very top as the key sentence. Yeah, and it must have a conclusion also, each paragraph. Also, this must link to that. This must link to that, and so on. All right. So the unit and coherence of ideas among sentences is what constitutes a paragraph. A paragraph is a group of sentences or a single sentence that forms a unit. It must form a unit. That means the sentences must be connected to each other, and it must form a part of the argument that you are building. So a paragraph speaks about one key idea. So that key idea you must list as the topic sentence or the key sentence. Then you can have support details in the arguments that you make to justify that key sentence, and a closing concluding sentence that is very closely related to the key sentence. So let's read this simple paragraph. Canada is one of the best countries in the world to live in, extracted from this. First, Canada has an excellent healthcare system. All Canadians have access to medical services at a reasonable price. Second, Canada has a high standard of education. Students are taught by well-trained teachers and are encouraged to continue studying at university. Finally, Canada's cities are clean and efficiently managed. Canadian cities have many parks and lots of space for people to live. As a result, Canada is a desirable place to live. So you see, now you gave what you want to say as a topic sentence. So this is the topic sentence or the key sentence. And when you reach the conclusion, you say, oh yes, I agree with what this person said. You cannot argue against this after you wrote the paragraph. Also, you can see these connecting words, second, finally, like that, all Canadians, connecting that to this. So this kind of a nice flow is very important within the paragraph. Also, inter-paragraph flow is also very important. Okay. So transitions are very important. Alright, so let's take one more paragraph from this book. The rate of home ownership varies widely across the developed world. Germany, for instance, has one of the lowest rates at 42%, while Spain, it is twice as high, 85%. Both the US and Britain have similar rates of about 70%. The reason for this variation appears to be more cultural and historic than economic. Since high rates are found in both rich and poor countries, there appears to be no conclusive link between national prosperity and the number of homeowners. So you can see this as the key sentence or the topical sentence, this as the concluding sentence. Topical sentence or the key sentence does not have to be the first sentence all the time, but it's easy if you do that. So you can see the linking words also like this. So here this one presents a reason. So if you analyze this, so this is the topical sentence and supporting details example 1, supporting details example 2, and supporting details reason, and the closing conclusion. So this is one more example. So let's do this small quiz, and on your own you can analyze this. Do a simple analysis. You can just analyze the topic, the supporting arguments, and the concluding statement. Also, you can think whether it's an example or a reason also. But let's do a simple answer rather than going through the slightly better analysis that is there in this book. So you can pause the video and think about these ideas before I show you some simple answers. Okay, now I'm going to show you the answers. Oh, so yeah, I think these are the answers. I'm sorry about the mistake in slides. So this is the topical sentence, and then supporting details, the example, supporting details, main reason, supporting details, supporting conclusion. I hope you agree. So here is an example from this paper. This is unsupervised learning. This is the best paper award in 2020 CVPR. So you see, this is a part of the literature. So they decided to give a topic also in that, for that paragraph in the literature search. This is, I think, the second paragraph or the third paragraph in the literature search. Traditional methods such as structure from motion, SFM, can reconstruct the 3D structure of individual rigid scenes given as input multiple views of each scene and 2D key point matches between the views. So that's the topical sentence. And this can be extended in two ways. First, monocular reconstruction methods can perform dense 3D reconstruction from single images without 2D key points. However, they require multiple views or videos of rigid scene for training. Second, non-rigid SFM, NRSFM approaches can learn to reconstruct deformable objects by allowing 3D points to deform in limited manner between views, but requires supervision in terms of annotated 3D key points for both training and testing. Hence, neither family of SFM approaches can learn to reconstruct deformable objects from raw pixels of a single view. So you can see in this paragraph, this person is talking about the so-called structure from motion for 3D reconstruction means you look at images and build a 3D view. You know, sometimes you see 3D views in computers of buildings and so on. And Google Map also you can see the street actually 3D reconstruction of some monuments and so on. He's talking about one approach here. So this so-called structure from motion. So now you can see this link, this first, however, second, and so on. And then you can see here in the conclusive statement, hence, he's arguing against this. He's arguing against this and forming an argument to support what they are doing in their paper. So this is how the literature search should flow, literature writing should flow. You use these paragraphs to form an argument. From this literature search, you want to go to the gap, and then you need to present the solution that you are presenting. And the readers must understand, oh my goodness, yes, given the literature, what the solution that they propose must be proposed right now. It is very appropriate that they propose this solution, and the readers must be convinced, and the reviewers must be convinced of this. Okay. So to summarize the thing about paragraphs, which is very important in a literature search, because we are doing an argument and walking the reader through this argument to reach the research gap and the solution that we are presenting. A paragraph is a group of sentences that deal with a single topic. Dividing up the text into paragraphs helps both writer and reader to follow the argument more clearly. The length of the paragraph varies significantly according to the text, but both should be normally be no less than 4 or 5 sentences. But in literature, you know, you can have a single sentence paragraphs also, but here we can use 4 or 5 sentences, 6, 7, that's fine. Usually, but not always, the first sentence introduces the topic, that's a key sentence. Other sentences may give definitions, examples, extra information, reasons, restatements, and summaries to support that argument. The part of the paragraph are linked together by the phrases and conjunctions. They guide the reader through the argument, and finally you refer back to the key sentence in the final sentence that which they have not written, and then you reinforce the argument that you make. All right, so now things about these writing tips. I thought of just showing you some interesting examples about using active voice and so on. These are from the Strunk and White book. Let's look at the first one. There were a great number of dead leaves lying on the ground. Now you can see it's a passive voice sentence. At dawn, the crowing of the rooster could be heard. The reason he left college was that his health became impaired. It was not long before she was very sorry that she had said what she had. So now let's see the active voice version of that. Dead leaves covered the ground. You see how powerful and direct that is. The cock's crow came with dawn. So this one, falling health compelled him to leave college. She soon repented her words. You see, active voice is very direct. And it's hard to write in active voice, but when you write, it's easy to understand. Putting statements in positive form. He was not very often on time. So you can read the other ones and have fun, but let's look at only this one. He usually came late. Then use definite, specific, and concrete language. The period of unfavorable weather setting. That is a nice statement, but in scientific writing, in papers, we should say directly. It rained every day of a week. Day for a week. Yeah, like that. So have fun by reading others. Omitting needless words. The question as to whether. There is no doubt but that. No doubt. Use for fuel purposes. Use for fuel. He is a man who. He. In a hasty manner. Hastily. Like that. Avoid needless words and be direct. Be succinct. So in summary, every word must count when you write. Okay, the assignment for you is this one. So now in the previous assignment, we looked at 3 top papers in your area, conferences or journals, and you justified that those are top papers by giving justifications by citations and so on. And you selected top journals or conferences also in your area and justified by their impact factor, citations, H5 index and so on, that these are the good ones. Now, equipped with the knowledge of finding credible sources, I am asking you to write 1 or 2 paragraph literature review using papers that you listed in the previous assignment. So in this, make sure that you have thematic emphasis. That means do not write your paragraph starting with the author's name. Or this author described this and write about that paper. Not like that. Divide your papers into thematic areas and then discuss about each thematic area by citing papers and arguing for a point that you want to argue. So remember, our purpose of literature is take literature and reach the research gap, and from that that would lead to the solution that you are presenting. Remember that. The structure of the paragraph is very important, so I will look for them. The key sentence, the supporting sentence, and the conclusion must be there. And then citations and references correctly formatted with all required information. So you had used automatic way of doing this, either using Microsoft Word or BibTeX in LaTeX. So I will look for this proper formatting according to the style. So write down what your area is and the citation style that you use, APA or IEEE or MLA or whatever, Harvard or whatever that you use. And I will look for this. Although I'm not very familiar with the other citation styles, I will know how to see if you have made any mistakes or you have omitted necessary details. Okay. So in summary, authoritative writing of literature review is important and it must be themed, not author-based. A structure of an article, general to specific to general, and we looked at starting with the abstract, introduction, then literature, if required. Sometimes you can have literature here, methods, results, and you can have an optional discussion and conclusion in an article or thesis or whatever. And then the citation and bibliography styles, we briefly look at IEEE styles, MLA and APA, and Harvard and others also exist. And citations and references in Microsoft Word, and briefly about LaTeX. And we looked at writing clips from Strunk and White, paragraph as the unit of construction and style. Alright, so that forms the end of the discussion on literature search and writing a literature review. So I wish you all the best in this endeavor. Find all your related papers and write a great literature review so that the readers would understand that this gap exists and your solution helps to resolve that. I wish you all the best and thank you.